and thanks for joining us on another episode of FYI. Hey, how's it going, amigos? How are you? Well, a lot of you have asked me what goes into making a podcast. So this week, I decided to take you guys on a behind-the-scenes look at what goes on, at the whole process, from start to finish. So let's start at the beginning, planning. I look at my calendar and I like to plan at least a month ahead because I don't want two things that are similar right next to each other. So if I did ice cream one week, I don't want to do food the following week. I like to switch it up, cambiarlo un poquito. Now, I've got my idea. This week, I'm going to do an episode about amusement parks, parques de atracciones. Yeah, I'm excited about it too. So what do I do first? Well, I have a little brainstorm session. I practice what I preach. To practice what you preach, literalmente, practicar lo que predicas. And I have a notebook and I jot down, to jot down is apuntar, I jot down some ideas that I might have, vocabulary, stories I want to share, and all that kind of stuff. And once I have all that jotted down, and believe me, sometimes it's in my notebook, sometimes it's on my phone, you never know when you're going to have an idea. So always have, whether it's a notepad, un bloque de notas, a notebook, or even your phone, be ready to write down ideas because you don't decide when you're inspired. Okay, the next step, and this is step 3. This is a very important part here. You have to develop your idea because it's not just enough to have a few random ideas. You want to develop, desarrollar your idea. So what I start to do is I start taking it from my notebook and from my phone and I start putting it into my computer. And we start to develop and organize the ideas as well as do research. To do research is hacer investigación. Then, once I've developed all my ideas, I've done my research, it's time to get that script going. And the script is el guión. So I organize the script because you want to tell the story in a sequence that makes sense. So the order is very, very important. Then what I do is I take one final look at the script, el guión. I look it over. To look over is repasar. So once the script is finalized, we're ready to record. So as you can see, there are a lot of steps before we actually hit record. So after hours and hours of work and research, it's finally time to record. Now, this is something somebody told me, and I think it's really important. The best post-production is a good production. So it's really important that you have good equipment. So if anybody is thinking about starting a podcast or anything like that, let me know. I can give you some more advice about specifics, but you've got to have your equipment, your gear. Now, I did my research here too, and if you want, I'll show you my gear. I have an Arrow interface. Now, an interface is what takes the signal from my microphone into my computer. And of course, you need the computer. That's an essential part for recording. And of course, the microphone. Now, my microphone is a Shure microphone. The brand is Shure. In fact, this is a very famous microphone because it's the same one they recorded Michael Jackson's Thriller with. Well, no, not this actual one, but the same model. And last but not least, you need a good pair of headphones or cans, as we call them. And once you have that, you also need a quiet room. And I think sometimes that's the hardest part. You need an hour to record with total quiet, no distractions. But is that really it? No, it isn't. Of course, once you record, you have to post-produce. Even if it's a quote-unquote perfect recording and the audio sounds great, you have to put in the opening, el título, and so much more. In fact, sometimes you'll see, I'll show you here, I take out some of the breaths and I also play with the volume on some of the sound effects. In fact, let's see how we do some of that right now. All right, welcome to the editing studio slash bedroom slash office. So I just recorded this. I just recorded.
And welcome to this week's episode of FYI.
Now I recorded that without the microphone, and as you guys can see, it's pretty low.
Hi, and welcome to...
But we can fix that. I mean, now there's a way we can do that by just going to Effect up here, and we can hit Amplify, and this will automatically do it. So now, if you listen...
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of FYI.
Right, that's one way to do it. Now, the good thing about editing, it's just like working on a Microsoft document. Control-Z, and we go back to where we were. So you can control the volume that way. There are many other ways as well. If I want, I can bring the volume up here like that as well. So that's just a demo of my voice. Now we're going to bring in the opening music over here, or we'll bring in the break music. We'll put this over here. Okay, fine. Now, what we need to do, because we don't want my voice to start right there. Now, if you'll notice, that track already goes up and then it fades out. I already worked on this track, so this is one that I have pre-prepared that I use for every episode. But still, we have to line things up. So we go over here and we move this to where we want. So let's say we want it to start here. We'll unmute it now because now we want to hear it, because we can see this is where the volume naturally starts to go down. So let's hear how it sounds. That's another important thing. You got to just listen to things and you'll say, you know what, it needs to be a second sooner or perhaps a second later. Okay, so here we go. Let's see how this sounds now. Remember, this I already worked on, but I'm going to show you how we can bring the volume up gradually or bring it down gradually as well. But let's just see how this sounds with these two tracks.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode.
So this is obviously too low, as we've noticed. So let's do this. Effect, Amplify, and now it's going to automatically. Now, if you really know what you're doing, you can adjust that down to a T. But let's see if it works now.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of
See?
FYI.
Now that sounds a lot better because that's louder as it should be. And remember, you can still tweak it. To tweak it is really adjust it as much as you want. And as I said before, you can also go up and down. So if I have this track here and I want it to start pretty low, but then I want it to get louder, I can literally start it low. See what I'm doing here? And then I can bring it to where it just fades out, which is really what this track is already. But I've, as I said, pre-edited this one to not have to do it all the time. So I'm trying to make something that's not too simple. But as I said, if you guys have any questions, just let me know. So as you can see, the editing process can be very tedious, but you can also control things to a T, hasta el segundo. So that's really good, but it is very time consuming. As you guys can see, making a podcast is very time consuming. We're done editing. We've got our final edit. We're happy with it, but we've got to give it another listen because we've got to create the PDFs. So I listen to it again. I put on my headphones and I create the PDFs. And I try not to pause. I try and write the words as I go. But sometimes, I have to be honest, I can't go as fast as I go. That's weird. I can't keep up with myself. Wow, I think we just broke some rule of space-time continuum. So now we've got the PDFs, they look great. We've got the audio. We've also got the bonus audio for our Patreon subscribers, and we're done. No, we're not done. We have to post it. How are you guys supposed to know where it is? I have to spread the word, difundir la palabra. As you can see, so much work goes into producing just one weekly episode of FYI and the bonus content, but I'm so glad you guys are enjoying it. If you're not, Patreon subscribers, find out about it. Join our exclusive online community on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Alberto Alonso, and drop me a line. I'd love to hear from you guys. I want to hear about future topics that you'd like to hear about on the podcast, and I'd love to hear your feedback as well. So, not feedback from the microphone. I mean feedback like, let me know what you think. All right, so this was the making of FYI, the podcast.